Hello, everyone. Okay, that should be better. Sorry, guys. As soon as I started, my own voice came screaming back at me. Yeah, turns out I've been messing with the levels on this program recently, trying to make the microphone sound better, and I forgot to turn off the mirroring. Anyway, guys, how are we all doing? Hi, James Carter. Good to see you there in the chat. So this is just going to be a quick 45-minute talk, give or take, tonight. I'm actually going to be speaking with Gary Wayne bang on the dot at 10 p.m. UK time. So that's in an hour's time. And before then, I just thought I'd go live with you guys, see how it's all going, yeah, share a few things with you that I've just discovered. Well, I say discovered, were handed to me generously on the Telegram group by let me just quickly find out who did this so they can get the credit. Media, let's find one of them. Yeah, representations of the Nephilim using AI. They were Robert. So this is Robert from the Telegram group. Okay, so thanks to you. I have some fascinating depictions of what the Nephilim may have looked like. I thought I'd just share it with you guys because just for a bit of fun. And also, I'd like to open up the chat to you guys. And I'd like you to let me know if there are any particular questions you want me to ask Gary in the next hour. The show won't be live. I'm pre-recording this one with him because I want to add images to the audio so we have visuals for everything we're going to be discussing. And then I'll be uploading it hopefully middle of next week, depending on how long it takes me to add images. So if you're here now, guys, and yeah, you like Gary Wayne's work, and there's just a question you've been itching to ask the guy, let me know, and I'll try and ask him the question. I'll try and get it in there. But other than that, guys, I'm going to show you some AI images that people sent me, trying to recreate what the Nephilim would have looked like. And I just want you to imagine, what it would have been like to live in this time. But to kind of segue into this, I'm going to read while the images play a passage from my book that I've currently been writing. It's one of the old. I wrote this one about a few months ago now. This is from one of the older chapters. I'm currently writing chapter 15, and this one is from chapter 6. But it's basically an imagined scenario of what it would be like to actually encounter a Nephilim giant. And it's just a bit of fun. So while I read this, I'm going to let the images scroll in the background, and then I'm going to come back to the images, and I'm just going to go through them and just comment on them because these ones are really terrifying, all right? So here we go. So I'm going to put the slideshow up. Here's one of them going right now, and these are just going to play in the background while I read this passage from my book, just to give a bit of a mood, So here we go. Imagine for a minute that you are walking with your dog through the woods, taking in the beauty of the forest ahead of you. Light rays pierce through the falling canopy down to the dried leaves strewn upon the ground. Red and white capped mushrooms pop their heads through the dried foliage. Ruffled by your dog's snout. He's sniffing the tracks of a squirrel he's been chasing for the last 15 minutes. He loves chasing squirrels. Almost on autopilot, you wander past the enormous tree trunk of the mighty redwood your dog is barking up at. The squirrel must be up there, you laugh to yourself with a smile. Suddenly, the hairs stand up on the back of your neck as a chill takes over your whole body. Something isn't quite right. Redwood trees aren't a sickening shade of veiny porcelain and multicoloured polka dots. And the last time you checked, you don't live in Oregon. You live in Shropshire. You realise that your dog isn't barking anymore. So you very slowly turn around to find you're in the shadow of something towering up to the treetops. Looking up, all you see is an impossible silhouette of something grotesquely human in front of the cold autumn sun. Your heart skips a beat as you witness what you desperately want to be, a deformed tree branch, suddenly lift into the air the limp body of your brown Labrador, Captain Snuggles. You watch the giant in front of you open its disturbingly wide jaw and drop your best friend into its gaping maw, snapping it shut with a crunch. The head and paw of Captain Snuggles slaps to the earth in front of you with a gory splash. You take a step back as the blood-smeared mouth and nose of the thing in front of you becomes clearer, leaning down closer to meet your gaze and licking its long, grinning lips. Long strands of red hair drape over one of its glowing, reptilian eyes. I want you to come back to me now and answer one question honestly. How do you think you would react in this scenario? If you run, you won't get very far. And if you fight back, you won't last very long. I think the honest answer would be to get down on your knees and beg for mercy while hoping this thing understands such noble concepts. From what we know about the antediluvian past, that's exactly what humanity did. When the Nephilim engulfed the earth, they soon had humanity under their dominion, and it's hardly surprising when you put a little bit of thought into it. These beings were the sons of angelic beings with powers beyond human comprehension. As they began to multiply in number, they too began to copulate with other humans to create even more divine abominations, known as the Nephil and Elio, according to the Book of Giants. The Nephilim and their offspring were not only tall and imposing, but they were also part divine in looks and power, viper-like, and certainly otherworldly. As such, they were inevitably placed in positions of kingship and rulership over all mankind, and worshipped as earthly gods. Gary Wayne speculates on the same concept in his own words by saying, "It is any wonder giants became the ancient world's heroes and men of renown. Nephilim must have quickly gained an amazing reputation among their human rivals, who viewed them with great fear, awe, and wonder. Nephilim would have been great warriors of their time by virtue of their sheer size and strength. They must have succeeded as leaders of the cities and civilizations. Who could have stood against them?" I don't imagine any human king could realistically look upon these behemoths with their 20-pound spearheads and 800-pound suits of armour and think they could contend with them in a battle for the throne. The sheer height, coupled with their fearsome psychedelic looks, would only make the thought of fighting them even worse. Gary Wayne elaborates on the otherworldly and fearsome traits picked up from their angelic fathers. Quote, "Nephilim mirrored their fathers. Fallen angels, for watchers possessed the face of a viper. Serpents, identified as seraphim, employed as liaisons between heaven and earth." End quote. We will thoroughly explore how the Nephilim and angels had serpent-like features in the next section of this book. For now, we will look to other cultures to find stories of half-human, half-angel giants becoming kings and rulers. Also, we will explore how they became liaisons between heaven and earth. Okay, so there's a little snippet from the opening of chapter 6 of my book, titled Kings and Rulers. And I basically go through to explain just how, in all cultures, Greek mythology especially, we have plenty of stories of these monsters becoming kings and rulers over mankind. Fascinating stuff there, lots of information compiled there. But I thought that little introduction about, if you saw one of these monsters, like, what the hell are you gonna do? Like, realistically, what are you gonna do if this thing on the screen right now is towering above you? You know what I mean? And I don't know. I mean, come on, think about it. Is it any wonder, like I said, these things manage to very quickly just usurp positions of power? And you're looking at some of these examples that were sent to me here, and it's kind of, the AI naturally has gone a bit overboard with some of the clown imagery, like the big plastic red nose wouldn't have been present realistically. I think if let's just skip through these, and I'll show you. There's one in particular. Where is it? I mean, look at these things, these monsters. This one's especially. I mean, look at this thing. This thing, it has Venom vibes, doesn't it? From the Marvel universe. But yeah, I think this is a really good example of just how insane and psychedelic they would have been, and how this is what a human and a reptile melded together would actually end up looking like. You know what I mean? It would look a lot like this. I mean, just look at the state of the patterns, the psychedelic imagery all over this thing. You know what I mean? Like, this is what a reptile human hybrid would look like. This is it. This is probably one of the closest representations to the Nephilim I've seen so far, through AI work. This is the closest it's come to showing what I've been trying to describe. These things were fierce, brutal monsters, and absolutely terrifying to behold, like just looking at them. If you saw one of these things, like I don't know, like a 12, 15 foot, 20 foot, 30 foot thing like this, just walking around and or coming at you, you know what I mean? It's kind of, what the hell? What do you do? What do you actually do? I imagine men's hearts would have failed them through fear of what was coming upon them during that time. Look at the glowing blue eyes on this and the psychedelic green eyebrows and very chameleon-like. And I think it's excellent, these examples. I don't know what prompts Robert used when making these, but obviously he's got the lizard hybrid human mix in there with these clownish white-faced visages. And this is exactly what they seem to have looked like. This reminds me of the Gorgon images I showed you from Greek mythology, which is a human serpent hybrid woman. And it looks something like this, with the tongue sticking out, the big red wide smile, the white pale skin along the face, the fangs sticking out, the upturned snout nose, the wild crazy red hair, lizard reptile skin with the snake's body. It's all kind of there, in these extremely stylized versions. But I think these are brilliant. I do, and absolutely utterly terrifying, of course, as well as brilliant. These are scary as hell. And it's actually terrifying as well what AI can do. I mean, look at this one. This one's a good representation. And people, like I said, people imagine all the reptilians, they're just green and boring coloured. And it's kind of like, well, no, serpents are not boring, like in any way, shape, or form. They're very, very colourful. I like this one in particular. I'm going to pause it on this one. It's a bit out there. It's a bit wild. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on in this image if we actually zoom in and have a look, which I'm going to do now. But if you just pay attention, we have what seems to be human-animal hybrids. If you can make sense of this AI mashup image here, this look at this big long-necked dragon in the middle, attached on top of a human's body, a pale-skinned human's body. I do think we are described. There was a point where humans were mixing themselves with animals, and they became, in a sense, lesser Nephilim. And I think that's what these would be a good representation of. I kind of slapped in here these human-animal hybrid mashup monster things. And the dragons are obviously a huge symbol involved with the Nephilim. I mean, it's likely that the dragons were the fallen angels, and their offspring were mixed with humans and looked like this thing on the right instead. So it's interesting that all these were kind of mashed together into one image here. Monstrous. But look at all the psychedelic patterns all over the skin on this one. I think this is very reminiscent of, let's say, Maori culture, who do this to their own skin, create similar designs and patterns to their own skin with their tattoos. Yeah, look at this thing. Wild, crazy eyes, huge serpentine maw, the rhino-thymoid red nose caused by the pale skin curse of the Celts, where they have this extreme rosacea and then end up with these bizarre-looking, bumpy red noses. It's all kind of mixed together there. So to anyone new who's just joined us, one thing which you might not have heard at the start is I am going to be talking with Gary Wayne in 45 minutes. It won't be live. I'm going to pre-record this one so I can add images afterwards. But if you have any questions you want me to ask him, let me know in the chat now. Okay, and I will make sure to try and bring those questions to Gary when I get the chance later. But for now, we're just skipping through some of these examples. I like this one because it's got that Japanese artwork effect. It's an example like, how they would have looked all over the world, and how different artistic styles and cultures would have represented them. And I think this one's really fascinating. And also utterly terrifying. Even though these are fake, these aren't real images by any stretch of the imagination. It's reminiscent of my own work in the idea that I go across all these cultures all around the earth, and they've all got their own different artistic styles, and they all seem to be representing the same looking beasts and monsters, and this is kind of reminiscent of that ethos, that concept, that idea. But yeah, this is pretty much what they would have looked like, and this is why we have clowns today, and this one in the bottom left here, for example, is a good example, I think. Even though they all have 5 fingers, they would have had 6, it seems. So most of them. I mean, look at this animal snake human hybrid one here. This one in particular. This is what I imagine they would have looked like when they actually opened their jaw. You know, because like I said, a serpent dislocates its jaw to eat its prey and to swallow large things. You know, so when the Nephilim creature like this would open its mouth to actually eat, it would have been able to do this, you know, open it to extreme lengths. And that's just another absolutely terrifying thought and concept. Truly demonic, you know. If you want to imagine what demons look like now in the spiritual realm and why people see jesters, look no further than the fact that this is what they looked like when they were in physical form, you know, something akin to this. This one here as well with the polka dots. I do think the polka dot skin pattern is a really common motif. You know, I do think this was a thing that was happening quite a lot. Um, yeah, I mean, if we go to some images I've compiled over the years, you know, we just go through some of these. Um, so these are other cultures representing their versions of the spirits, and you can see the dots, the polka dot pattern is always a common recurring motif. This is the Indian Theym that you see in here. Um, some more examples there. This is in Africa. This is the Wangina in Australia. You know, they have a polka dot skinned pattern, white skin, white face, polka dot pattern skin motif going on here as well. That's always depicted. What else? I'm just skipping through randomly here to see what turns up because these are all kind of compiled together. This is in, I think it's Korea. And in Thailand as well, and Taiwan, they have these ancestor spirit general worships, but the generals they're representing, I don't think are human generals. It would have been the kings and rulers I was talking about earlier. But this is how they choose to represent themselves, even with the clownish slit that goes down the eye we see on Western clowns. And yeah, it's just fascinating stuff. Look at this one. I don't know what's going on there with the reptilian third leg thing sticking out between his legs. But I just think it's interesting. This is a good example, you know, how the white skin motif could only appear in small traces on the face, but the rest of it could have been all sorts of colours. You know, these things were wild and crazy in their visage and design. So this one here, as you can see, I corrected it with the thumbnail and got rid of the red nose, because I think that is closer to what it would have looked like, is this, without the red nose. Because obviously you type into a AI prompt, mix a clown with a reptile, and they'll always add the red nose on, you know. So we're going through other cultures here, geishas. This one's psychedelic and trippy. This one looks more of the feathered serpent look with the polka dots, and this one has white hair, which again was another descriptor which I find fascinating. It has the serpent clawed, dragon clawed feet here. And let's just be thankful that these things aren't walking the earth anymore in physical form. They are a defeated enemy now. They're a pathetic visage of their former self. We have to remember that, you know, these things were defeated, wiped out utterly. Now they're just in disembodied spirit form, and they're small and useless and disembodied, and they are a pathetic mirror of what they used to be. This is why they're so full of pride. This is why they hate us so much, because look what they used to be compared to us, and consider what Jesus has reduced them to. You know, it's just interesting to consider. But he obviously here's other cultures who represent their ancestor spirits with their makeup, and it makes you wonder what, you know, we're doing in the West with these makeup shows like this, for example, and what we do with makeup. You know, we should be more careful about how we choose to represent ourselves, definitely, and what we choose to put on our skin. Clowns. What a joke. This one's a bit on the nose, a bit over the top, isn't it? I find this one interesting. I think this is where is this? I can't remember where this one is. I want to say Beijing, but I could be wrong there. But look at this. Look at the grin on this one. It's terrifying. These are in South America, Portugal. So clowns. Look at this one here. Look at this from Papua New Guinea. How they have the wild red, feathered headdress. You know, to represent the wild, crazy hair, which you see these ones having. You know what I mean? I find that interesting as well. That people all over the earth have been representing these things. Look at this one. This one's terrifying. And this is one of the masks from Sri Lanka, is it? Is this one of the Sri Lankan masks? Oh, I forget now, I'm blanking. They all kind of blend into one because they all kind of all look the same eventually. Yeah, but this is one of the interesting masks here. It's a demon mask. It literally represents the ancestor spirit demons. Um, and here's someone in Papua New Guinea dressing like their ancestor spirit versions. Look how they actually went with the red nose here when representing it. They painted themselves with a red nose. And these, these things are incredible. These people, these cultures are so far removed from clowns in the West. Like, they probably haven't even conceptualized them, but they still choose to represent themselves like this, More AI imagery there of how they look in the spirit realm, which I thought was quite interesting. Here's some totem poles in the Pacific Northeast. Yep, the Pacific Northeast. I think the Pacific Northwest. No, it's the Pacific Northwest, isn't it? Yeah. I think these are the ones that are off the coast of. Where is it? They have their own island. It's the Gohanus Island, I think is what it's called. And the Haida Gwaii are the tribe who make them. Obviously, musicians dress up like them as well to channel them. Here's a good example of Bono doing just that for his stupid Mephisto character, devil character persona he puts on stage. Here's examples of the devil spirit being channeled in Portuguese rituals, Spanish rituals. More totem pole representations. Look at that one in the background. If that isn't a human lizard hybrid, I don't know what is. And they come up with all sorts of bullshit to explain it away these days. You know what I mean? But these are literally what we're seeing in these crazy images we're showing here. You know what I mean? With the crazy wild red lips. I don't see much of a difference between something like that. You know what I mean? And this thing here. And this totem pole we saw down here, I don't see much difference between the two. That thing in the background and this thing in the foreground. Yeah. These ones are interesting. The Fighter Con, I think they're known as. It's a Day of the Dead ritual where the dead come to the village, the spirits of the dead, and it's the Nephilim that obviously they're representing. Look how psychedelic these things look with the multicolored ribbons and patterns. Here's the face changes of China. And we got these demons messing with us from the other realm. You play with DMT, you're nothing but a toy to these things. Interesting. What are the ones? More of them. There's Joseph Grimaldi, the man who made it all happen. The Anu tribes, who consider this a coming of age ritual for young women and a symbol of beauty. Oh, it never ends. Honestly, look at these screaming children. How anyone thought it'd be a good idea to, I don't know. I don't know what made people think children would enjoy this. I have no idea. Yeah, mysterious. Look at this cheeky fella from Sri Lanka. Then we got this weird looking thing that comes out every year in the Festival of Basil. And these creepy guys in Africa here representing the same thing. It doesn't matter where you go, all the psychedelic stuff comes out. They all seem to dress the same, act the same. The screaming child with Ronald McDonald. And this is what it look like now in the fractal realm, something like this. Yeah. Madness. So yeah, I thought I'd just show you some fun AI images there, guys. I'm going to come into the chat, see what's going on. In the meantime, I'll let those AI images just keep on rolling in the background. It's a bit of fun, but absolutely terrifying. These things are just... It's creepy what AI can do now. It truly is absolutely mind-blowingly terrifying what AI is capable of. This is definitely putting artists out of a job. I'll say that much. It's pretty spot on with the Nephilim depictions here. Minus a red nose and silly hat or two, you pretty much got it. This one I think is really spot on. Absolutely. Look at that wide, mauled grin. Terrifying. Right, let's see what's going on in the chat anyway, guys. I've got about 20 minutes to spare. Let's see what's going on. So we've got James Carter here. Thanks for being here. Stovetop Stuffing. Thanks for being here. BSD Carbon. Evening all. Thanks for being here. MSG Maurice. Thanks for being here. Gary is awesome, says Jet. Yeah, he's a cool guy. Did you draw the thumbnail? No, I'm telling you, these were sent to me in the Telegram group, and I just kind of expanded it using AI on Photoshop and then added a title to it. But no, these were sent. Also, I got rid of the red nose in the thumbnail, as I just explained. Where would Gary place the Vedic text within the biblical paradigm? That's an interesting one. That's an interesting question. I would assume, from the top of my head, it's a an antediluvian part of the earth and age. I think it was a time of great deception where fallen angels were pretending to be many characters and avatars, as they would call themselves. And I think it's all a lot of it is lies and over exaggeration and nonsense. But there's all the interesting stuff about the Vimanas and the wars, obviously, for the moving flying ships, which is worth talking about. I'll ask him. I'll ask him where the Vedic and the Indian mythology fits into the whole story. I will. That's an interesting one. Sorry, guys, I'm just drinking a coffee so I can stay awake tonight. What would I do? Crap myself and cry, says Tommy John. That's what I mean. What can you do? I mean, come on, what else can you actually do realistically? Look at this. Look at this thing. There's nothing you can do, is there? And the fallen angels, when they made these monsters, knew that would be the case, you know. And thank God he sent a flood, eh? Let's just say that. Gold Banker, thanks for being here. Yikes, yep, absolutely. This one looks like my mother-in-law. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Pretty witchy, yeah. Says random comment. DMT jesters, that's right, Andrew K. It's all connected. So the DMT jesters are the disembodied spirits of these clowns that were once on the earth in physical form, looking something like this. Yes, absolutely. Are the Nephilim a part of the Canaanite bloodline? Yes, they are a part of they are specifically a part of the Canaanite bloodline. It was the daughters of Cain who mated with the sons of God, who were the fallen angel watcher class seraphim angels. Yes. So they are Canaanite women mixing with when I say Canaanite, I don't mean those who were in the land of Canaan post flood. I'm talking about they were of the lineage of Cain. Let's make that clear. Post flood, it was obviously the land of Canaan where they dwelt the most when they came back. The Rephaim in dead, resurrected, weird hybrid form, however they came back. You know, I'm not even 100% on that, to be honest. I just know they did. There's many theories surrounding it, but what is for certain that they were there, and they did seem to come through the lineage of Ham and his son Canaan. And it's questionable. Obviously, I know Nimrod seemed to help the Nephilim regain their positions of power in the world after the flood as well, but he was a bit of a Nephilim sympathizer from the sounds of it. I think there was something to do with the codes of Adam being passed down. It was all very psychedelic, backstabbing time for a lot of people. But the original Nephilim were the product of the daughters of Cain. Yes, mixing with the fallen angels, that's for sure. No, not Captain Snuggles. I don't know why I called it Captain Snuggles. I could have called it anything. I guess I just wanted to make it as absurd as possible. Just for the comedy factor, really, just to keep the awful things I'm describing a little bit lighthearted. The real horror in this scenario is people copulating with these things. Yeah, I don't think it was a lot of it was by choice. Certainly not. And from what I've read, even in the book of Lamech of Cain, it mentions that the women who gave birth to these things died a horrible, painful death and were torn apart as these things just ripped their way out of their mothers. They weren't exactly women didn't survive any of this, you know. I don't think many of them really chose to do it either, to be honest. And as graphic as it sounds, from the way it's described in the book of Lamech of Cain, it's a very graphic book, but it was basically just torrents of semen, you know, just pouring onto naked women type of thing. It was really graphic and brutal. Like, it was, yeah, it didn't happen by conventional means after that, you know. It really didn't. Would the word of Jesus work against a flesh and blood Nephilim? You know what? That's a good question. Would the word of Jesus stop a murderer from stabbing you? Probably not. No, I mean, maybe it could. I'm not saying faith can move mountains, you know what I mean? But I think our battle isn't flesh and blood exactly. It's spirit. Our weapons are spiritual in nature because our war right now is more spiritual. And I'm not saying Jesus couldn't stop this from happening in a physical sense. It's a good question. You got me thinking there. I don't know what to say to that really, but I imagine not. No, but I imagine if in terms of we're lucky that we don't have to deal with these in physical form anymore. In this way, there would be those people on the earth today who would consider themselves the true descendants of these monsters, but they look a lot more human today than us. But I don't know. I can't imagine rebuking them in the name of Jesus would stop them from eating you if you did encounter one, to be honest. But this life and this world is corrupt in that sense, and it's kind of be willing to lose your life for Jesus in that way. Is what we're called to do, really. These things will be judged in the end. The tech was better than today. I don't know if it was better. It was different. That much is clear. Would the word of Jesus work against the real horror? Don't forget to thumbs up, says Tiffany Angel. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's like this video. Share it, guys. Share any questions you have. Let me know. I'll ask these questions with Gary Wayne as well. I am paying attention here. The Vedic one is an interesting one. I'm interested to know where the Indian stuff lines up with all this. I would sit down and cry. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm crossing the other side of the road. That's good. I would be sick eating a Tic Tac. Pray, says Jet. Yeah, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Are dinosaur bones Nephilim? I think dinosaur bones are the remnants of a lot of the dragon-like creatures that were around during that time. A lot of the hybrid monsters, yeah. I think that's pretty much it. Some of them may just be the legs and femurs of Nephilim themselves and things like that. I've heard that theory. Look at this one on here now. It's got very dinosaur-esque features, hasn't it? Especially in the legs. It's possible. Yeah, a lot of hybridization was going on then, a lot of corruption of animals. It's possible lizards were made bigger and more toothier than they should have been. And thus we have dinosaurs. But again, it is all speculation. How are we supposed to know? I wasn't there. Where were these sourced from? I just began watching. These were given to me in the Telegram group by somebody who I think used Bing AI, some random prompts to make it happen. I just thought they were really good. I think a sub, yeah, that's right. It's like a Bosch painting, absolutely like a depiction of hell, certainly. Looks a lot like Kachinas. Yeah, I think a lot of these were melded together from certain cultures' inspiration. This one looks like something from like a Greek epic of some kind. But this one's another good example of how the skin would have looked. White predominantly, but it's also scaled and beaded with psychedelic serpent-like patterns, This one has a literal clown neck ruffle. They wouldn't have had those, okay? But it's likely that neck ruffle would have been a lot like a serpent frill, like a lizards have in Australia, for example. And they wouldn't have had a red nose as such unless they had developed like a sickly, bulbous, pus-filled red nose like humans do who get rhinophymas. That's likely what it would look like. Full armor on. So Nez says, yes, the word of Jesus would work on a flesh and blood Nephilim. And maybe in terms of like, because they aren't human fully, they would have some kind of physical reaction to the, a rebuke from in the name of Jesus. Maybe I'm not sure. It's a good question. It's a tough question to answer, really. Some of these look like genuine ancient paintings depicting these beasts. That's what I thought, what I mean? Some of them don't. Some of them are a bit overdramatic and a bit highly stylized. But we're trying to get the gist here, an idea. I saw an episode of TV show called Frasier where he dressed up like a clown as a psychiatrist with a frightened patient and then scared his father into a heart attack. That's terrifying. I remember that. I remember watching Frasier as a kid. For Gary Wayne, were there ever any benevolent or at least helpful Nephilim that he knows of? I've been told that Thoth the Atlantean was a Nephilim and his teachings seem to me insightful. I will ask him that question, though I already know the answer is basically no. And Thoth, or Hermes Trismegistus, was basically the post-Diluvian wizard or right-hand man of Nimrod actually ended up being, who reintroduced the ancient wisdoms which were corrupted mankind back into the post-flood world. So no, I wouldn't consider him a man of wisdom in any way, shape, or form. To be honest, he's just another serpent cult leader who continued the corruption. Guys, I think the AI knows something we don't. I think they do. I think it knows something. Patient was phobic of clowns and Frasier. Very interesting. Yeah. Right, where we're going. Good thoughts. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up with the chat here. It seems to have popped around. No weapon formed against us shall prosper. This includes evil creatures. Sure, in a spiritual sense, absolutely. Physically speaking, people get murdered by evil all the time, even those of faith. In fact, we are said to be beheaded for our faith many times in history and possibly in the future. But that's not the point, is it? No, that's the point. We need to remember that it's not about our physical bodies at the end of the day. It's about our eternal soul. Speaking of which, Gary Wayne has just sent me a message. It's a picture of his book and his plans for his book. Brilliant. With his synopsis. I'll have that image in the background, no doubt. That's great. I'll have to communicate with him soon so we can get rolling, get going with that. But let's see what you guys are saying. Then I'm going to have to close this down. But I thought, again, just a bit of fun, guys. Just a bit of live, just to share these live images with yourself. But let's see what's going on here. The demons in the AI know what these creatures look like, yeah. They are exactly what we have been seeing, for sure. Some of these representations are straight up seamless. Absolutely they are. This channel just resonates with the Holy Spirit to me. Oh, thank you. Sometimes I feel the Holy Spirit, I'm not going to lie. But, yeah, this is a scary subject, and I try to bring it with some levity. I really do. Because, I mean, like I said, if you actually saw one of these things in person, you wouldn't move. You'd just stop in fear and die. I think that's probably what would happen. I think that's what did happen most of the time, until people got used to them just being around. How is something that large procreating with a small human woman without killing her? I think I just told you earlier. It's very graphic, but it wasn't by conventional means. The mind boggles, yeah. Those females didn't survive the birth. No, like I said, explain that. The Nephilim of the offspring. Good thoughts, yeah. Were Nephilim born already adults? How could they care for themselves after their mums died during birth? The angels took them under their wing. The Nephilim fathers took them under their wing. And it's possible they grew a lot faster than normal humans and developed a lot faster. I don't know. They were part divine in nature, you know. But I'm sure there were children Nephilim around as well. Don't you think it's rather strange how faithful some of these depictions look? I do. That's why I'm sharing them with you. You know what I mean? Because these are just really terrifying. These images are absolutely terrifying. Paul, the Book of Jubilee, says how the Nephilim system got passed on after the flood, through Canaan. Yeah, there are many concepts and theories and ideas. There isn't actually much consensus on which one's 100% correct. I think there's probably multiple ways the Nephilim made it after the flood, and I've described them many times. Maybe the Nephilim were born like aliens in the Alien movie, chest bursting. Yeah, something like that. What type of channel is this? Yeah. Sometimes I wonder as well. It's a bit all over the place. Abraham possibly teamed up with some mighty men who rescued Lot. Yeah, mate. Yeah. Understand. How about you put some of those images into your book to better illustrate your point? I probably will. I probably will, to be honest. Yeah. Because they do kind of make it clear what I'm trying to talk about. But there are, like I said, there are worldly examples out there of like I said, artworks, depictions on people's traditional clothing that do show us a glimpse of what these things would have looked like. But these AI representations are a lot more on the nose, you know what I mean? So I probably should be using them. Psychedelic chameleon shape-shifting humanoids. Yeah, something like that, Glenn Starr. That's pretty much what they were. DMT jesters accompanied by tall, hooded shadow beings on a checkerboard floor is what I've heard from DMT users. Yeah, yeah, I've heard it all. Yeah, there's many representations of these things in the DMT realm, but the shadow people and the jesters seem to be working together, or are the same things, just with different levels of perception through the person seeing them. Killer Clowns from Outer Space was a documentary. If I had £1 for every time I heard that, I would not be on YouTube. I'd be sipping up in the Bahamas, and that's it. You know, I wouldn't bother with this anymore. Um, they're releasing a video game for Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I believe. It's making a comeback, and so are the creepy clown sightings. It's starting again, but it is spooky season, so I'm not surprised that people are starting to dress like clowns and scare people again. Is there a link between DMT jesters and shadow people? Yes. I think shadow people are more likely the shades or the remnants of those who manipulated their DNA as lesser Nephilim. So I do think the shadow form is just a form we see because our perception's limited. I do think if we were to see them fully in the spirit realm, they'd just be as psychedelic as the jesters. But when we see them in the physical realm, and they're trying to make themselves manifest to us, we see shadow entities because our perception can't quite tune into that frequency. Do you get what I mean? But if you took DMT, you'd probably see them in all the psychedelic glory very quickly. But I do think the shadow people are seen like lesser entities. They're probably the humans who corrupted themselves um, just before the flood. And the jesters are the Nephilim, I would say. That seems to be what I'm seeing here. And as for the Hat Man, I have no idea 100%, but I do have a special guest coming tomorrow night. Somebody who has been making some amazing work on Benadryl and people who encounter the Hat Man while taking Benadryl. He has a channel called Cryptid Candy, and he is going to come on tomorrow and share his work live with all of you guys at 8 p.m. And we're going to get deep into the Hat Man and what people see taking these drugs and the weird cults that have been formed. So that's going to get really good. Tomorrow's going to be a good show. And also on Sunday, I have Heidi Hollis, the author of the Hat Man book, coming on to have a chat as well. So we're going to see some interesting Hat Man information coming out at the end of this week. And obviously our interview with Gary at the end, sometime in the middle of next week as well, which I'm going to do tonight. So it should be good. Right, guys. The snake penis one is funny. Oh, grow up. But yeah, it's pretty hilarious. I'm not going to lie, it's pretty funny. The word giant in Hebrew doesn't mean the same thing in English. It's a mix of blood. Okay, go Carl. I think you get bored in the Bahamas eventually and still go on YouTube. I think you're right, Vibes. I think I'm loyal to the tube. Oh, no, I'm loyal to you guys, not YouTube itself. You know, YouTube is just a platform. But I am addicted to I'm addicted to revealing the clown stuff. I just can't help myself. What can I say? Bob is a Gibberine, means men of renown, aka the demigods. Yes, yeah, giants is another word that's been transliterated from Gibberim, which is mighty men. Not all men are Gibberim, but all Gibberim are Nephilim. Not all Nephilim, was it? What's the phrase? How do you say it? Not all Gibberim are Nephilim, because you can have normal human men which are described as a mighty warrior and called a Gibberim. So not all Gibberim are Nephilim, but all Nephilim are certainly classed as a Gibberim. Okay, that's how it goes, I believe. Yeah, and then another word for that is giant. Could you go more into the Thoth story with Gary? It's a big new age topic and people resonate, so your perspective will be helpful. Sure, Christopher, I'll bring up Thoth and I'll bring up the Vedic perspective as well. Absolutely, and we'll see what he has to share with us about that. Sounds interesting. I'm literally 17, LMAO. Okay. I don't know why you told me that, but fair enough. You're lucky to be 17 and this awake, my friend. You know what? speaking of, you're probably. I look at my demographics on YouTube, and nobody under the age of 25 is watching my videos. So you are the one. You are the one person, okay, who is within that age bracket who actually watches my videos. Most of us here are old. We're all millennial boomers. Basically, that's all we are. Maybe some Gen Xers are in there, maybe, but sorry, so maybe some Zoomers here and there, maybe, but we're all millennial and above. It tends to be. So thanks for being here. Right, right, guys. So I'm going to yeah, I'm gonna have to get going. I'm gonna have to start talking with Gary. Get prepped for that now. I'm gonna speak to him in 10 minutes. So just so you guys know, for my patrons out there, all 46 of you, the raw audio of mine and Gary's conversation will be uploaded as soon as possible, straight away, to Patreon only. Okay? And then I'm going to add images and make a video out of it, a proper video out of it, which will be uploaded to YouTube in a week or so. But for my patrons, just as a bit of a gift, early access for you guys, you can have the raw audio to listen to. So just so you guys know, if you're a member of the Patreon and you're listening now, keep your eye out for that. So you guys will get early access to the full interview with Gary Wayne, which I'm about to do in 10 minutes time. The rest of you will have it in about a week's time with images added and all that sort of stuff. So just a bit of something for the patrons there. If you want to listen to it early, sign up to Patreon for $5. And you get access to all sorts of extra stuff on there, But that's basically what I'm going to do for my patrons, because I did miss last week's Patreon video. So here to make it up to you guys, you can have some early access to mine and Gary's interview, just for a bit of fun there. But the rest of you will get it next week, probably. I'm currently making a video about no forests on flat Earth, and that whole theory and that whole stint in 2016 where it was a big deal for my Remember series. It's a 28-minute video it turned into. So it's going to take me a long time to add images to that. And then obviously I have Gary Wayne's to add images to, which is going to be about 2 hours worth. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time, So I'll have them all coming out to you eventually. But in the meantime, in between, I have an interview tomorrow night with Cryptid Candy. I've got an interview on Sunday with Heidi Hollis, which will be live. So there's plenty of stuff coming, guys. Plenty more stuff. Hold on to your seats. It's time for Paul to be hoisted. Thanks for all you've done so far. But thanks, Sacred Grove. I like that. Right. My kid watches you. 16 says random comment. Well, what do you know? I'm reaching the youth. Brilliant. But yeah, my demographics don't show me that at all. Apparently, they're all on TikTok or something these days because they're not on YouTube. I'll tell you that much. But anyway, guys, I'm going to have to get going. I'm going to have to shoot. Thanks for listening. And as always, God bless.